NFC 5 for Friday, May 3rd. This is episode 73. Today we have some baseball on the docket. We've got some basketball to talk about, and we are going to be we are going to be recapping the NFC South NFL draft. So, how did they do in the NFC South? You're about to find out after a quick word from mathradio.com, where you can pick up an online math course for your child ages 7 through 17. You can help them do better in class, help them get higher test scores, and even help your kids get into college. It's a big deal. Become the hero of your household by going to mathradio.com today. All right, everybody, let's get started with some quick baseball news that we need to talk about out of New York. So there are two players that are coming back for the New York Yankees. Aaron Hicks played a rehab game yesterday in the outfield, so hopefully he will be back next week. Also, third baseman Andujar played, and he could be back as early as today. So stay tuned for that. If you have either of those players on your fantasy teams, or if you want to start them in daily fantasy, keep an eye on Aaron Hicks and Andujar, the third baseman and outfielder for the New York Yankees. All right, the Yankees finally getting some good news as far as player injuries goes. Okay, let's move over to basketball. We have tonight two games. We have the Bucks at the Celtics. The Celtics are -2, and that game is at 8 o'clock. The over-under is 219.5. And we have Denver at Portland, -4. That game is at 10:30. The over-under is at 215.5. So last night we hit the under. We are back up 7 units. I appreciate that for the playoffs. In tonight's game, and the Boston and Milwaukee series, I just don't know how it's going to go. They've looked very different in each game. I think the role players for Boston will play better at home. That should mean more scoring, and maybe Boston has the edge. So if I had to make a pick, and yeah, let's go ahead and take Boston -2 at home and see if they can go ahead and win it. I'm not going to take the over-under. I think 219 sounds about right. Maybe something like 115, 105 as a final. So give me nothing there. And then in the Denver and Portland series, man, I just don't know. You would think that Portland will come out strong at home, but this Denver team, I mean, I just don't really have a feel for them still. I didn't have a feel for them in the first round. Don't have a feel for them now. So I'm going to skip that game entirely. All right. We are going to talk about some FanDuel contests for today. I've got my lineup loaded up right here. The number one player on Roto Grinders was Mirotic. I've got him starting at my small forward for 4,400. My other small forward is Giannis Antetokounmpo. All right, he's at 11,300. Now, the problem with FanDuel today, and picking a daily fantasy basketball lineup this late in the year, is that there's very few players to choose from. Roto Grinders only has 7 players with 5+ multipliers, and I was trying to fill out my lineup. I only got 4 into my lineup today. So I got Damian Lillard. He was close. I think he was a 4.95. He's starting at my point guard at 9,900. Terry Rozier, I'm taking another chance on Terry at 4,300, figuring that the role players will do better at home. I'm starting Gary Harris at 4,900 at shooting guard and Jaylen Brown at 5,300. Mirotic, we already talked about, along with Giannis. I'm also starting Jason Tatum. He's got to have a good game eventually, right? 6,400 is a lot to spend on this player who has not been really bringing it every night. And then we have Paul Millsap, my other power forward, at 6,100. And now at the center position, I'm going with Al Horford tonight. I thought about trying to make a lineup with Jokic and Antetokounmpo, and then I decided, you know what? I think Horford is going to have a great night. He should bring the intensity at home. He might even get 40 minutes in this. I don't know if it's a must-have game, but the Celtics need to win this game. I think his minutes are going to match Giannis's minutes, and if Antetokounmpo plays 40 minutes, I think Horford's going to play 40 minutes, so that should be some fantasy production for him. All right, so that's my fantasy lineup for tonight. Let's move over, and we're going to talk about the NFL. We're going to recap the 2019 NFL draft of the NFC South. Okay, we'll start with the best one. Now, this is going to seem like an odd pick for the best draft because they had by far the fewest picks. I'm going with the New Orleans Saints. Now, I love what New Orleans did because they are in complete win-now mode. They traded up last year, and their 2 picks this year, their 2 top picks, they traded up for them as well. They are going all in to win right now. And to me, it makes total sense. You still have Drew Brees playing at a super high level. You got Kamara at a low contract. The defense is in place. I feel like this team was 1 play away from the Super Bowl. They have a chance to win right now, so you've got to do everything you can to win right now. So for the Saints, what did that mean? Well, let's just recap a bit. They were 13-3 last year. As I mentioned, one game away from the Super Bowl. Offensive DBOA, they were 4th, defense 11th. Their big needs coming into this were maybe another player in the secondary, and they had to have a center. So they went out and they traded up in the second round about 20 spots to pick up center Eric McCoy, center out of Texas A&M. They needed a center, and they got a good one. That's pretty nice. They had to give up a second rounder, obviously, this year and next year. But they did swap. They got a 4th rounder this year, who we'll talk about in just a minute, and they gave up a 6th rounder. So, I don't know. Again, you're mortgaging your future a little bit, but they're in the mode to win right now. And I figure with the Saints, they're going to just ride this train until it falls off the tracks, right? Just keep going with Drew Brees until there's no more Drew Brees. Then stink for a year or two, rebuild, and come right back, right? But right now, you've got a chance to win the Super Bowl. You've got to go for it. Okay, so with the rest of their draft, with that 4th round pick, they traded up again 11 spots with the Jets to grab Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, safety out of Florida. I love this guy. I think he should have been a 2nd round pick. I think he's going to make an immediate impact this year for the New Orleans Saints. Now, they did have to give up, a 5th rounder to move up 11 spots, so not too bad. In the 6th round, they grabbed another safety. 7th round, a tight end Mack out of Notre Dame, who I like. He might contribute a little bit this year, and an outside linebacker. So I have the Saints, not because I particularly love this class, but I love what they're doing. They're going all in. I love the top 2 picks. I even think the Mack out of Notre Dame could contribute, and they are trying to win now. So bring in 2 guys you think are going to make an immediate impact and go for it. I love the strategy. All right, my second team, this was close, honestly. I took Tampa Bay. I hated what they did last year, and they took another kicker in the 5th round, and I hate that. Take a kicker in the 7th round if you have to take a kicker. Don't waste. You can get a good player in the 5th round. It's totally possible, but they're just giving up picks to take kickers. So this is the 2nd year in a row they've taken a kicker. At least it wasn't in the 2nd round this year. Maybe it was 3rd round. I don't know, but they took a kicker early last year. So let's go through what they did. Tampa Bay last year was 5-11, not very good. They switched back and forth between who were the quarterbacks? Fitzpatrick, and then who is the guy they have now? He's young. He's in the 5th year of his contract. Oh man, why can't I think of his name? Winston? Is it Winston? Who is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback? I'm deeply, deeply embarrassed. It is Winston, Jameis Winston. So who knows if he's the man or not, but you've got to give him one more shot with this new coaching regime. So their first pick at number 5 was Devin White, linebacker out of LSU. I think he's a great player. Was it a reach at number 5? Maybe, but it's the guy they wanted. They think it's going to fulfill their defense. And this Tampa Bay team was 32nd in DBOA. For those of you who don't know, that's last, people. Last in DBOA last year. So they're taking Devin White. Makes sense. All right. Picks number 7 in the 2nd round and 30 in the 3rd round were both cornerbacks. They did not trade. I'm sorry. They got Sean Bunting. And then in the 3rd round, they got Jameel Dean out of Auburn. So I don't know if these cornerbacks are any better than the other cornerbacks, but from the 7th pick in round 2, the Broncos traded up to pick 42, right? Tampa Bay picked 39. Why not take the Broncos offer? Let them come up to 39. You take 42 and 52 and an extra 4th round pick, and you pick a different cornerback, right? Do you really love Bunting better than the other 6 cornerbacks that went between your picks? Probably not. And then at pick number 30, I'm fine with it. Take Jamal Dean. Go for it. Make your pick. But this way, if you would have traded down from that 2nd round spot, you could have gotten an extra pick and picked up, another player of need, because obviously this team has a lot of needs. They were 32nd in DBOA last year. Okay. And then in the later on in the 3rd round, pick number 35, they got Mike Edwards, safety out of Kentucky. I like it. I think that's good value. They got 3 players for their secondary, and they got a linebacker who can help out in coverage, or he can rush the passer. I think that's really going to help their defense this year, but I don't really think it makes them a playoff team. And I mean, where is this team going? Are they going to stick with Winston? Are they going to go for a new quarterback next year? It doesn't really make sense, because it seems like they're too good to tank. I guess if Winston stinks, they're just going to stink, and that makes sense. But we'll find out soon enough. But I put them second because I like what they did. It's 4 defensive players that they needed. They got good value. They were able to trade down a couple times. And I think, except for the kicker in the 5th round, it's not too bad. All right. Moving on to number 3. We're going with the Carolina Panthers. I almost had them at number 2 because they didn't pick a kicker, and I really like their 1st, 2nd, and 4th picks. But they went with Will Grier in their 3rd round. Okay. But let's back up a second and talk a little bit about the Carolina Panthers. Last year, they were 7-9, missed the playoffs. Cam kind of fell apart. Offensive DVOA was 11th. Defense was 22nd. So they definitely needed defensive help and O-line help. All right. So they went out in the 1st round and drafted edge Brian Burns out of Florida State, a very fast edge rusher who should help this defense improve from 22nd. And then in the 2nd round, they addressed their other big need, which was offensive tackle, by drafting Greg Little out of Ole Miss. This seems like a great 1st and 2nd round for Carolina, the kind of draft that puts you back into playoff contention. However, with their 3rd round pick, instead of trading down and getting more capital or taking a nice wide receiver to help Cam out, they took Will Grier. This is a quarterback that doesn't seem like the future of your franchise. It seems like insurance. It seems like a lifelong backup. So if Cam gets hurt this year, you're going to stink. It doesn't matter if you have Will Grier or not. So why does it matter? Why draft Will Grier? Do they really think he's going to be the quarterback of the future? I mean, if he does and you had to have him, fine. Go out and draft him. But to me, this doesn't make sense. Carolina should be in a situation like Tampa Bay where they want to win now. How much longer are you going to have Cam, right? So if you're going to take a quarterback, take the best quarterback possible in the 1st round. Don't take Will Grier in the 3rd. Because look at all these guys that went after Will Grier. Hakeem Butler, okay? Riley Ridley, both wide receivers that could have helped out this year. Rodney Kajust, another offensive tackle, boost that offensive line. Or even the guy we talked about earlier, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, safety who went to New Orleans. Any of those guys could have made an immediate impact this year for Carolina to help them get back to the playoffs. But instead, they went with Will Grier. So again, I hate that. And just philosophically, it doesn't make sense to me. And then with their 4th pick, they took Christian Miller, another fine pick. They took a 5th round running back, 6th round offensive tackle, and 7th round wide receiver. So again, I really like what they did at the top of the draft. But, after that, it just kind of fell off for me. So that's why they ended in 3rd. All right, the team I don't like so much was the Atlanta Falcons. I like it for Matt Ryan. I don't like it for the Falcons. So last year, the Falcons were 7-9. Their offense was 8th. Defense was rated at 31, coming in just behind the Tampa Bay Bucks. A lot of bad defense in this NFC South. Who is the top-rated defense? New Orleans had the top-rated defense at 11, and then Carolina 22, Tampa Bay 32, and Atlanta 31. Ugly, ugly, ugly. So Atlanta also has dreams of going back to the playoffs, right? So they think they need offensive line help. Well, fine. So at the 1st round, pick number 14, they take guard 45 and 79 to get Caleb McGarry, who also seems like a reach. Let me just talk about the guys who went at the top of the 2nd round. Jawan Taylor, Greg Little, who we talked about before, Cody Ford, and Dalton Reisner. Most people have all of these guys rated above Caleb McGarry. So why did Atlanta need to trade up all the way to pick number 31 in the 1st round? Couldn't they have traded into the top of the 2nd and gotten a guy that's just as good, or maybe the same guy, right? Maybe the same guy for much less than they gave the Rams. I don't know. Seems like a bad deal to me. And speaking of that, at pick number 14, the Atlanta Falcons could have traded out as well. The Packers came up to trade for number 21. Eagles came up to trade for number 22. Couldn't the Falcons have traded back from pick number 14 and still got a guy that they liked at 21 or 22? I think so. And let's see what happened. There's no 2nd round pick, no 3rd round pick for the Atlanta Falcons, right? Because of all these trades. And it seems like from everyone's analysis, the best value in this draft was in the 2nd and 3rd rounds, because all those players were basically equivalent to what happened at the end of the 1st round, and they're all super high value picks. So I feel like they missed the meat of this draft. Then they took cornerbacks in the 4th and 5th rounds. Is that really going to help the defense? 4th and 5th round corners? I don't know. They took a defensive end in the 4th round. And let's see. That's about it. In the 5th round, they took a running back with very little big play ability. I'll try to say his name, Quadri Olison. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a fit for the Falcons. He's certainly no Tevin Coleman. And then in the 6th round, they took a wide receiver. I don't know. I still feel like this is going to be one of the worst defenses in the league. The offense might have gotten better, but I think you missed a chance to add value and put some injections of life into that defense. That's the problem. I'm not saying the offensive linemen that they got won't be good and that their offense won't be better. I'm saying you could have used the draft and your capital a little bit better so that you could have added some defensive help as well. So that's it for my NFC South roundup here. I had New Orleans number 1, Tampa Bay number 2, Carolina number 3, and Atlanta number 4. All right. I hope you enjoyed that. We'll be back tomorrow to do a Kentucky Derby preview. If you made it this far, come back on tomorrow, and please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you're listening on iTunes, please give us a 5-star review and a wonderful a 5-star rating and a wonderful review. That's what we're looking for. And if you're listening on Spotify, please tell a friend and all that good jazz. All right, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow for some Kentucky Derby madness. All right. Until then, I'm out. Oh, yeah. Visit mathradio.com as well.